Hello and welcome to today's presentation on Microsoft Dynamics AX, a new generation of ERP. My name is Sahar Sakeb and I'm your Product Technology Specialist within Hands-on Systems. To get started, I wanted to briefly introduce Dynamics AX2012. Essentially, this diagram explains, or hopefully will explain, the concept of AX to you in a nutshell. Microsoft Dynamics AX2012 is a fully integrated ERP solution. It provides functionality around financial, supply chain management, manufacturing, project management, business intelligence, human resource management, sales and marketing, service management, and a whole lot more. To give you an idea as to what we will be covering off in today's webinar, I would like to start off with introducing a bit about AX. I then be going off and demoing a little bit of an overview of Microsoft Dynamics AX to give you a brief look and feel into the application, and then covering off some of the capabilities around the 5 industries that AX2012 provides functionality for. Within the introduction, I wanted to specifically address some of the trends and challenges addressed by AX. I wanted to look at the core principles behind Microsoft Dynamics AX and focus on the 4 webinar themes from today's demonstration. So what are the trends and challenges specifically addressed by AX? First of all, from a business perspective, we have a whole lot of challenges around the global opportunities and competition that surround businesses today. The fact that there's complex supply relationships and more informed and demanding customers also adhere to this. Also the point that staff need insight across all departments within an organisation, and there's always a pressure within a business to reduce the operating costs. From an IT perspective, there's always the push to drive competitive advantage within a business. The fact that you need to respond quickly to fast and growing business needs. You need to be able to support your business and its growth from ground up, and obviously encourage user adoption within any new application that you introduce in the business. There's also the ability and the functionality and the requirement to be able to have real-time data anytime, anywhere. Microsoft Dynamics AX's core principles are around these 3 key points: the fact that it's powerful, it's agile, and it's simple, and that it's obviously very simple to use. And the 3 of them intertwined with the core concept and the core principle, which is natural interaction between ERP, business productivity, and IT infrastructure. The 4 webinar themes for today's demonstration are around these 4 principles that I'm about to introduce to you. The first is that it's familiar and easy to use because it encourages user adoption. The screens and the functionality is built upon Microsoft platform, which automatically encourages user adoption because it's something that the user is familiar with already. It drives productivity and focuses on staff through its various reporting capabilities, also through the fact that it's aligning the users with the organisational goals as well. The software enables you to make better business decisions at all levels, and how this is envisaged in the application, it's through, again, its extensive range of standard reports, its analytical reports that are available, and really the information is a click away, and that really highlights the point that there's fast access to the right information for all users. And finally, we're ending it off with the complete industry-specific solution. So Microsoft Dynamics AX is built around 5 verticals, or 5 areas that we like to refer to as distribution, services, public sector, retail, and manufacturing, which I'll be briefly covering off in the last part of this demonstration. So what will I be covering in the demonstration? I'm going to be going through a very general navigation in AX2012. I will be covering off the role center and the whole concept behind the role center and the dashboards. I'm going to be showing you how easy it is to access information very quickly, and finally I will be covering off how flexible and simple the software really is to use. So on that note, I might end this PowerPoint and open up the application. To begin the demonstration, I'm going to give you a brief introduction as to the look and feel of Microsoft Dynamics AX. And first of all, we're going to start off with the area to the left-hand side of the screen, which is referred to as the navigation pane. Now, the navigation pane allows the user to navigate their way in between the application, depending on the security and the rights they have within the system. As you can probably see, the navigation pane is designed in such a way that mimics Microsoft Outlook, so automatically the users are feeling a sense of comfort and confidence because it's something that they are already familiar with. Above the navigation pane, we've got the concept of the file and folder structure. Now, the file and folder structure again is based on the Windows Explorer foundation, where you've got a number of different areas where you can expand and collapse to get to various areas of the system. Now, if I was to turn my focus to the accounts payable module, you will notice that the file and folder structure has now changed depending on the module or the area that I am now working in. Above the file and folder structure, we've got the concept of favorites, and the favorites work the same way as your Internet Explorer favorites, where you can add and create as many folders as you wish and organize your favorites in particular areas. So for example, you could have an accounts payable folder or an accounts receivable folder or a reports folder. So really it's allowing the user to access information very, very quickly through a click of a button. Above the favorites, we've got the forward and back buttons, and the forward and back buttons are used typically to navigate your way in the application very similarly to the way you would navigate in an Internet Explorer web page, for example. The forward button allows you to move forward within the application, and the back allows you to go back. But one of the really important points here is the fact that there's a travelling history of all the pages you've ever visited in the application. So instead of having to click your back button 10 times to find where you were, you can use the travelling history option to find exactly where you were in the system. Next to the forward and back buttons, we've got what's called the address bar, and the address bar really allows you to navigate again throughout the application, so it's a different means of navigating. If you're a company that had or has multiple entities, you've got the ability to toggle between your different entities by a click of a button, so simply clicking on the little down arrow next to the home button and finding the entity that you wish to actually trade in. And finally, we've got the concept of the search box up the far right hand side of the screen, and this really allows you to search for functions and menu items and data throughout the whole application. Now, for the next part of this demonstration, I'm now going to be logging in as an AR officer. Now I'm logged in as an AR officer, and automatically you can see that my role center or my screen is looking very different. The concept of the role center essentially is like a personalized dashboard for the user. It's the first place a user actually comes to start working on the application. And the personalized dashboard or the role center enables a user to take action. So it actually forces them to take action. It provides them with a key list of things that they should be doing every day. So you can see how the software drives productivity within your organization. First of all, you can see, for example, on the right hand side, I've got an open sales order report. And this report enables me to perform drill down if I wanted to by clicking on the blue text on any of the columns, for example, the sales order column or the customer account column, or for example, the currency column. On the left-hand side of this report, we've got many different areas that this role center can actually comprise of. First of all, we've got this area of my reports. So this is a quick and easy way of adding a list of all the reports that this particular AR officer needs to access on a daily or weekly basis. We've also got some access to some functions or some links within the application that again will help drive productivity for the user. One of the other most important elements of this role center is the ability to be able to take action on any items that come in through workflow. For example, I've got some travel and expense items that require approval, as you can see down as I'm clicking. You can see how easy it is to take action by simply clicking on the Actions button from within the Role Center and either approving or rejecting the workflow item as required. One of the most important elements of this Role Center is the area of the queues, which is this area that I'm highlighting now on the top left-hand side. The queues essentially draw a user to be able to take action on any particular given item. For example, because I'm logged in as an AR officer, I can see that I've got 160 customer invoices that are past their due date. You can see how easy it is to take action by simply clicking on the queue, which takes you to what's called a list page. We will be discussing a list page in the next section to come, so I'll use my back button to take me back to where I was. For the next part of this demonstration, I'm going to open up what's called a list page, and really what I want to highlight here is the fact that how AX will enable you to make better business decisions very quickly. So everything in AX is governed by what's called a list page, whether it be customers, vendors, employees, purchase orders, purchase requisitions, sales orders, etc. Before I get into actually going in and showing you how to manipulate the data within a list page, I might take you through some of the elements that comprise this list page, starting off with the area to the top of the screen, which is known as the ribbon. The ribbon allows a user to perform certain functionality relating to the list page that they're actually working on. For example, because I'm in a customer list page, in my customer tab I have the ability to edit the customer. I can actually look at the customer's transactions. I can view their balance. In my Sell tab, for example, I can create sales quotations and sales invoices directly from within this screen. So think of the tabs as pointing to certain functionality relating to the list page that you're on. So for example, if I was in a purchase order list page or a vendor's list page, the functionality that I would be actually seeing would be different because it would be relating to the list page that I'm actually working on. A final point to note here is the fact that this list page is designed in such a way that actually mimics Microsoft Office, so whether it be Word, Excel, where you've got a series of tabs across the top of the screen, and then you've got buttons relating to each tab that allow you to perform the certain functionality. The area to the right hand side of the list page is known as the fact box pane, and the fact box pane essentially allows you to view high level information about the customer without having to drill down into multiple screens. So if I'm actually going through and clicking on my customers, you can see how the information is actually changing relating to the line or the customer that I'm actually in. There's also a nice neat feature to be able to refresh the customer statistics, which gives you the customer's balance, average balance and highest balance. Finally, we've got the area to the bottom of the screen, which is known as the preview pane. And the preview pane is designed to give information about the customer, again at a high level, really around their method of payment, their terms of payment, what group they belong to, what their credit limit is. So again, it's designing the application in such a way to give the users all the information in the one screen without having to click onto multiple screens. Now, searching and sorting for data is actually very, very simple. If I wanted to sort on any particular column in this particular list page, I can easily achieve that by clicking on the column once to sort in ascending order and clicking on it again to sort in descending order. And the sorting can be accomplished through any one of these columns that you see across the top here. I wanted to also point that you can actually change how these columns are to appear. So for example, if you wanted the extension to appear at the very end, you can simply drag and drop the columns to suit however you wish to view the data. The columns are also not limited to what you see on this particular screen. So for example, if there was a whole bunch of other items that you wanted to see relating to the customer, for example, the customer group or their terms of payment, you can easily right-click and personalize this particular list page and add the columns you wish to add. Now, searching for data is also very, very simple. If I come into my grid and actually choose to filter by grid, I can come in here and search. For example, if I wanted to search for all of my customers starting with CONT, I can easily achieve that using wildcard characters. By taking the search one step further, I can say, well, only show me those customers that have got a credit limit greater than, for example, $2,000. You can see how nicely and quickly AX has formatted that data and filtered it, giving me a list that I need to actually work with. The next point I wanted to demonstrate was the area around the integration to Microsoft, specifically Excel. Any particular list page can be exported to Excel. Once the data is in Excel, you're able to manipulate the data one step further, and also there's this concept of this bi-directional update or bi-directional flow of information going between Excel and AX. So if I was to open up Excel and maximize my screen, you can see how nicely Excel has gone in and formatted that data coming directly from AX. You also notice that there's a Dynamics AX tab that appears in Excel. This allows us to go into what's called the field chooser. So now this is Excel looking directly into AX. If I wanted to pick from a number of fields, I can actually easily drag and drop the field from the left-hand side onto the right-hand side quite easily and quite simply by doing what I'm doing on the screen now. So once I've actually brought up all of my fields, I simply close my field chooser and click on refresh all, and now you can see how AX has gone in and updated that information for me. This can also be potentially useful if you wanted to mass update data. For example, if you wanted to update your product pricing, or if you wanted to update your vendors or your customers in one hit, you can easily use Excel to be able to do that by, for example, if I wanted to go in and update all of my credit limits for my customers, I simply update the credit limit and publish my data back into AX, which means AX is now being updated. This prevents you from having to open up each customer record or each product record in AX and go through one by one and update the data, which can be quite time consuming. Now, there are an extensive range of reports available within the application, and unfortunately I don't have time to go through all of them, but I will show you some examples. The example that I'm going to show you is an open purchase order lines by delivery date report. Before I run this report, I want to mention the fact that the report can be run as a recurring job on the server, which means it can be set up to run every day or every week or at the end of every month, for example. The report can also be set up to be emailed to a user or a number of users as well. Now, if I select OK, the report will actually run and it will come up on the screen. One of the points I wanted to mention here, and I briefly spoke about it earlier on, was the ability to be able to drill down into the application directly from the report. Once this report loads, I will show you exactly how AX can achieve that. So now you see that there are a number of fields on the report that are marked or written in blue. These are reports that have drill down enabled. So for example, if I wanted to have a look to see what purchase order this particular line corresponded to, I simply click on the purchase order number, and this will now open up the purchase order directly from within AX. So now it's the report communicating directly with AX, the application. And now you can see my purchase order has actually loaded, and I can see exactly what items have comprised of that particular purchase order. One of the other examples I wanted to show you was an example of some of the analysis reports that you can actually extract from the system. In this particular case, I have a sales by customer group report in Excel using the pivot tables and cubes that are available to you through standard AX functionality. If I wanted to, for example, split this report by date, I simply find my date field from within my list. So I'll scroll down and find my date. And say, for example, I wanted to split this report through my columns. You can see we say OK, that nice little message that comes up. If I was to move this report over to the right, you can see how neatly Excel has gone in and inserted my years across my columns, and it's also changed the look and feel of my report to actually mimic that. Say I wanted to change my mind and do my date across my rows. Again, you've noticed how quickly the application has gone in and changed my report, but it's also gone in and introduced the years in relation to the rows, which I can then perform drill down on if I wanted to. Now, the simplicity and the flexibility of the application can be seen obviously through a number of different ways, which I'm hoping you would have seen in this particular webinar, and that is the basis that the product is built across the Microsoft Windows platform. So it uses technology that the user is actually familiar with and comfortable with. However, the other two elements I wanted to quickly demonstrate in this particular instance is, first of all, show you an example of a workflow and show you how easy that workflow can be actually configured to suit your business requirements. In this particular case, I'm opening up a purchase requisition workflow. So this is a workflow that I'm using in my business that is enabled when a purchase requisition is raised by a particular user. If I was to maximise this screen, you can see that the workflow has got a start and it's got an end, and there's 2 steps in between, a review step and an approve step. Say, for example, I introduced a new business requirement in my organisation that allowed me to perform a condition before it hit review or before it hit approval. It will require me to use my workflow elements on the left-hand side of my screen. And by dragging and dropping, for example, a conditional decision onto the graphical workflow editor, I now have full control over how this workflow is to operate. For example, I can delete this arrow from the start and say, well, I'm starting from my condition, right? And say, for example, if it's false, I want you to go to review, and if it's true, I want you to go to approve. I then have the ability to set up my basic settings around this condition to determine how this condition is to be routed in my workflow. So that's one example. The other example I wanted to show you was around what's called the organisational hierarchy. The organisational hierarchy literally gives you a graphical view of your organisational structure. In this particular case, what I wanted to show you here was the ability to be able to chop and change as your business changes, chop and change the data that's actually corresponding to it. So, for example, I've got a legal entity that's comprised of a number of different departments that branch off into a number of different cost centres. Say, for example, I introduced a new department, or for example, a particular department became redundant. I have the ability to edit my organisational hierarchy by either removing the node or inserting another node. I also have the ability to do the same thing at this particular level, whereby I can actually remove the cost centre if it became redundant or insert a new one. Once this change is published in the system, all the corresponding data is actually published as well, which is a very, very powerful tool within the application. So that concludes the demonstration there. We might resume our PowerPoint. What I really wanted to touch on from that brief demonstration is I'm hoping that you would have seen how AX encourages user adoption with its familiar and easy to use interface, and the use of the Microsoft technology and tools that an end user is already comfortable with. I hope that you would have seen how AX drives productivity in that the users are told what they should be doing through the use of the cues that I've demonstrated in the overview demonstration, and also through functions being available a click away. AX also focuses and controls on staff by flexible workflow controls, as you would have seen, and down to field level security. And finally, AX enables you to make those better business decisions at all levels because users are provided with their most important information, and the drill downs are very, very easy, and the data manipulation is also very, very simple. Now, before we conclude the webinar, I might just briefly go through some of the industries that AX provides. In particular, we'll be looking at distribution, services, manufacturing, and retail. First of all, with distribution, some of the functionality around distribution is really around warehouse management, supply planning, demand planning, multi-site planning, tracking your serial and batch numbers, advanced pricing and rebates, e-commerce, and that link there is available there to have a look at the Microsoft website with more information around how the distribution industry handles some of the functionality in AX. And that's just a simple screenshot of a supply planning screen within AX. You can see that there is a supply schedule for a particular product. You can see how neatly AX splits the weeks across and obviously plans demand and supply accordingly. And that's also another nice little screenshot that's giving you an inventory profile of the projected part number. In relation to services, AX has got functionality around expense management, project-centric services, real-time job status and billing visibility. It's got the ability to view work-in-progress management and also the capitalisation of time and materials. Some of the screenshots around there, you can see on the screen there, we've got a couple of projects up the top there that we can see, and then we've got billing rules that relate to each of those projects in relation to milestones and time and materials, etc. And that's just another screenshot there giving you a snapshot of the invoice control that's around the services module. With relation to manufacturing, AX has got full manufacturing functionality around Kanban boards, around discrete, process, lean and mixed mode manufacturing. There's the automated scheduling of resources, there's quality control, functionality around master planning, bill of materials, track and tracing, and production line and warehouse management, only to name a few. And there's a nice little Kanban schedule screenshot on the screen now, you can see, and yeah. The next area and the final area is around retail, and AX has got full functionality around the retail management. You've got complete offline capabilities. There's the merchandising, style, colour, size, fully integrated replenishment, multi-channel management, cash and account sales, gift cards, loyalty schemes, gift certificates and lay-bys. It's also got full and flexible point of sale experience that can be customised for each specific user. And there's a nice little screenshot of the point of sale touchscreen, which can be customised to suit your business requirements. So who we are, we're Hands-on Systems. We've been around since 1995, and there's our website there if you wanted to obtain further information. And just to give you a brief sort of overview of some of the customers that we're currently dealing with, some big names there like Harvey Norman, Clark Equipment, O'Brien, for example, to name a few. And if you want any more information, my name is Sahar Sarkeb and I'm a product technology specialist at Hands-on. My number's there and my email's there, and the landlines for our offices in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane are also listed there. Thank you very much.